Stage 5 of Paris-Nice, the second longest of the week. A big one, 203 kilometres, almost 3,000 metres of climbing, and another cold start the day after the weather had provoked a stop, a restart, and some riders, including the leader Jonas Vingegaard, unhappy about the fact that it had restarted with a cold in everybody's bodies. This is what they were taking on day 5, from Saint-Just-en-Chevalet all the way to La Côte Saint-André, but a very different finish to the one that had been taken place at the finish line 5 years before. Then it was flat. This was a climb akin to the Mort d'Ouy, almost 2 kilometres long, maximum gradient of 18%, the average over 11. It was a fast day, rip-roaringly fast in fact. Ben Swift and Thibaut Gruel, the two riders who eventually managed to get the breakaway, they had 1:30 with 55 kilometres to go, but at this point Vingegaard, the leader, had already crashed, and we wondered how he was. He was sitting towards the back. He was being looked after by a personal bodyguard in the shape of Victor Campenaerts. The rest of his team sat at the front, and those hoping to whittle down the advantage from the breakaway riders doing the same. 5 walls inside the final 50 kilometres were to be taken on, and with 4 of them remaining, there was an opportunity for Tobias Foss to again launch an attack. The former world champion in the time trial tried to bridge to his teammate Ben Swift, who'd once again been in the break for the second day running. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Ineos Grenadiers' motto at this race with Swift and Foss. On Vingegaard watch, he was still hanging around at the back, but not losing contact. It had everybody guessing. Foss would drop the rest of the breakaway with 30 k's to go. 3 climbs from the finish at this point, and he'd extend his lead over a minute. Behind there were a few counter-attacks and opportunities to try and bridge across that didn't work. Several teams also took it up, Decathlon being one of them. And descending into the next climb, Foss's gap was over a minute and 10 seconds. Then it began to come down. Alaphilippe was obviously fancying his chances. Trentin working hard to stretch out the peloton. Skjelmose was there in the white jersey following the wheel of Pedersen, who again was working hard. On the penultimate climb of the day, the lead's gap was halved. Several riders would try, including Kevin Journetz. But Foss was still out in front, and while that was the case, he always had an outside chance. There was so much firepower still behind, however. When it came to the intermediate sprint, that was won by Foss as well. He took the 6 bonus seconds. And Florian Lipovic would make sure he snapped 2. That moved him to just 1 second away from the white jersey wearer, Matthias Skjelmose. A split in the peloton on the way into the final climb of the day. Jonas Vingegaard moving up, and for the first time we had a good look at him. He was sporting injuries to his face. But this time he was positioned at the front. Campenaerts turning from bodyguard into leader on the peloton. Paulet was again strong, Pedersen doing his job. Tarling was still there too. Less than a kilometre to the start of the climb. Then they swung onto it and the hostilities could begin. How would Vingegaard fare? Well, he'd start the climb at the back, but in the main group. His teammate Zingler setting a good pace at the front for Jorgensen. But with 800 metres to go, Vingegaard, alongside Skjelmose and several others, began to lose contact. Jorgensen was ploughing on, and he was on his way back into the yellow jersey. He'd started the day just 5 seconds away from his teammate. Martinez was following, Champoussin, Tejada were up there as well. Lipovic was riding well too. There were going to be gaps in the GC after 4.5 hours of scintillating racing. So came the sprint for the line. Martinez moved up right onto the wheel. Champoussin was following in behind. Jorgensen just riding for time in the general. At times it looked like slow motion as the gradients were up high. But Martinez launched his move inside the final 100 metres. Immediately his explosive kick creating the gap, and it became clear that he was going to take the win. His first for his brand new team Bahrain. A 21-year-old really coming of age on the World Tour. It was his first win at that level. Champoussin second, Jorgensen third and taking bonus seconds, crucially retaking that yellow jersey. A fourth place for Tejada meant that it was a second and a fourth for XTS Astana. 65 more UCI points for them in their quest to avoid relegation. But a big win for Lenny Martinez, a day after Bahrain had lost their leader. Visma Lease bike kept the lead with a new rider, but visibly upset, hurt, damaged at the end. Not just the side of the face, but also the wrist seemingly in trouble for Jonas Vingegaard. Martinez winning the stage ahead of Champoussin and Jorgensen, a top 10 separated by 18 seconds. So a big win for Lenny Martinez, the biggest of his career, and winning it at home in France. General classification now looks like this. It's a 22-second lead for Jorgensen over teammate Vingegaard. He will go off and assess his own injuries. Hopefully, we'll see him racing the final 3 days. A big moment for Jorgensen. 3 days to go in Paris-Nice. An attempt to try and defend the title he won last year in his adopted hometown. The longest stage of the race takes place on day 6. Goes from Saint-Julien-en-Saint-Alban all the way to Ber-l'Étang. Into Provence, almost to the full south coast. 210 kilometres long, give or take 200 metres. Perhaps one for the sprinters, maybe one for the breakaway if they can't get organised. Let's see what happens. A couple of lumps and bumps to the end, but as far as Paris-Nice stages go, relatively flat. You can watch it all on TNT Sports.